Okay, I'm Brett Morgan. I'm the Developer Relations Engineer for Blogger. And we're here this afternoon to talk about building professional websites using Blogger as the back-end infrastructure. So what are we going to cover? Firstly, why you should use Blogger. Then we'll look at a couple of ways of doing so. And then finally, we'll have Pat Coleman here do a live coding exercise showing you how one of these approaches works in practice. So a question you might validly be asking, why would I use Blogger as a back-end infrastructure for a website that I'm building for, say, myself or for a client? So let's start with a reason that kicks it for me. Blogger is big, probably bigger than you'd imagine. Here's some statistics to help you get a feeling for that. We have 400 million active monthly readers, up from 300 million actives just a year ago. Blogger is growing. We're a truly international platform. We're localized in 50 languages, and 75% of our traffic comes from outside the US of A. And finally, this is the statistic that does it for me. Our users are putting their thoughts, their dreams, their daily annotations into Blogger at a rate of 250,000 new words a minute. This means that Blogger is truly scalable, it's stable, and it's the platform of choice for millions of people out there. I did mention that we were stable, right? So what do I base this on? Well, in a recent survey of all the top blogging platforms, our friends over at Pingdom ran a survey, and Blogger was the only platform for the entire survey period to maintain 100% uptime. This means that we're stable, we're dependable, and you can use us for both yourself and for your clients' websites. Now, walking back in history, I remember the first administration interface I handcrafted for my client, matching him up with the website I was creating for him. But, you know, time moves on, and I learned that there's more to it than just figuring out the mental puzzle. There's engineering, there's user interface concerns, and these days I've come to understand that these things really matter. I'm showing off Blogger's new admin interface that we're currently rolling out to our users. As you can probably see in the URL bar, this is draft. So if you are using Blogger, you'll start seeing this appear across everyone coming up. Now, hopefully, I've impressed you to try Blogger out. And you might be validly asking, okay, how would I do that? Well, let's have a look at 3 ways. Firstly, I'm going to look at Blogger's templating system. Then I'm going to show you what you can do with JavaScript. And then finally, we'll have a look at the RESTful APIs. So firstly, templates. Blogger's templates are solid, they're stable, they've been with us for quite some time, they're well engineered, well bedded in. Let's have a look at one. This is actually some XML that's pulled out of one of my blogs, mouserants.blogspot.com. It's slightly simplified, but let's walk through it and actually have a look at what's happening here. Firstly, we're using namespaces to demarcate where our parts of our templating language is. The B namespace is used for our conditionals and for our modularity, which you can see on the screen here, and it's also used for looping constructs. The next, we have an expression namespace, which here is being used to calculate some style for a div. And the third one is our data namespace, which is used to pull data out of the underlying data store. But what's all this doing? Well, if a user is on a mobile platform, as you can probably tell, this is serving up the blog header, serving out the title of my blog and the description underneath it. And if they're not on a mobile platform, well, there's a nice little image that goes behind that. As you can see, our templating language gives you the ability to totally customize the look and feel of your blog. So once you've created that, your next question is, okay, I've got this template, how do I put it into Blogger? Well, again, back to our schwanky new UI, there's a template tab on the left, and what you'll see is this. And if you scroll down the page, the red box is not there on the production. This is to draw your attention to it. Okay, You can do a couple of things here. You can download your current template. This is useful if you're making some changes in the admin interface that you're not sure if you're going to like or not. So you can download it, play around, and then step backwards. Or, as in the case here, where we've created a new one, turn around and upload it. Blogger will then validate what you've uploaded, and once it is happy with that, it will refresh all your sites and everything will be available in your new library. So, next question is, what advantages come from using templates? Well, our administration interface deeply understands the templating system. So, for example, what we're looking at here is a layout view of my blog without all the content in it. And what we can see on the bottom left is where the content that I enter through the admin interface will appear, and it says that's where it'll be. And on the right, we've got gadgets. So gadgets are things like open social gadgets, which you may know from places like iGoogle, Orkut, or our apps marketplace. We also have widgets, which are using an ability for third-party companies to integrate with Blogger using the Blogger XML templating language I showed you before. Another advantage, and well, who here has had that wonderful call? You're deep into figuring out a deep technical problem, you've been working on it for like an hour, you've got it all loaded into your head, and your client rings you up and goes, I'd really like the line at the top to be in a different color, and a bit bigger. And you're just sitting there going, I really could have not done with this phone call because I've just lost what I was thinking about. Well, we've got a wonderful template editor, a template designer, which you can then train your customer into how to make things different colors. What I'm showing here is changing my heading font to use the Google Fonts API impact font. So you can have your customers come to you with these wonderful problems and you can go, here you go, you can do it yourself, saving you from losing all that context so you can actually get some coding done. Okay, time to look at approach number 2. There's a couple of ways to use JavaScript with Blogger. First one, obviously, is putting JavaScript in the template you're crafting back in step 1. The other way is we can render a completely new user interface using just HTML and JavaScript and CSS and pulling the data from the data store using JavaScript. Okay, I'd like to show you some examples of this sort of technique. What you can see here is that it's dynamically loading, and, well, your machine's slow, bro. We've got this ability to dive into things, maybe. Yes! I love demoing things live. What we're looking at here is the ability to have a blog or any website that isn't the traditional main line of content with a sidebar. We've got navigability, we've got the ability to dive into things, scroll down, and that's right, we've got a few tabs open. And here is exactly the same content. Nothing's changed on the back end. Totally different look and feel. What I'm actually showing off here is a feature that Blogger released fairly recently called dynamic views. But there's nothing actually stopping you guys from doing this. And we'll get to that in a second. Oops, I should probably go back to the presentation. Did I just close the presentation? No. Okay, part number 3, using RESTful APIs with Blogger. And here's where we get to announce something. Well, actually, announcing a preview. What we're doing is we're releasing a new API in the coming short term that will allow you to pull in all the content that we were seeing before using JavaScript. And we'll have, as you've probably seen in the other API talks we've had on this track, we've got client libraries for Java, PHP, Python, .NET, and I'm missing one, Ruby. So you'll be able to grab all the content that your users have put into using the admin interface, pull it out, and re-render it in various different ways. So what can you do with this? What parts of Blogger can you get to? Well, you can get the blog information, the actual posts, either in list or individual format, comments, and the static pages. Static pages are usually used for things like about us, contact us, FAQs. This means that not only can you have your clients entering, say, constantly changing information as blog posts, but you can also give them the ability to edit content that would be, say, linked from the top right of the page, the stuff that's always relevant. This means that you can give the ability to your clients to change the look and feel of their site without needing to bother you constantly. So let's actually have a look at the APIs that we're giving. Firstly, notice it's on HTTPS. All of the new APIs that Google are doing are all over HTTPS. They're all also based on googleapis.com. The part that's different is Blogger, V2, blogs, and underneath. So this one is pulling back a specific blog. So the first line, kind, is constant, is in all of the data we return. It tells you what you're looking at. This means you can write some generic code to pull this into whichever format you prefer and basically switch off that. The next line is the primary key of the object you're looking at. The next one is, in this example, would be the blog title, and the description would be effectively used as a subtitle. Then we've got created and updated as time since epoch, the link where it's actually hosted on Blogspot, so on and so forth. Now, under a specific blog, we can get all the posts in a paginated fashion. There are a list of them. I've highlighted the content because we can also get them individually, and it's using exactly the same format. So again, we've got kind, then we've got the primary ID of this post and the blog that it's related to, and then we've got the name, which is the post title, and the actual content, which is the HTML that you've entered through our admin interface. And then we've got the author who created it, useful for things like bylines. Now, we've also got comments available as a list. Again, same format. So here we've got kind, blogger comment. We've got the primary key of the comment, the post that it's related to, and the blog. And what was actually said. And our static content, again, as a list, as individual pages. So, now that I've walked you through 3 ways of integrating with Blogger, it's probably time for that live coding exercise where Pat shows us how it is done.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, so now Brett's walked us through what sort of resources we give you access to in this new updated Blogger API. So what I'll be doing is taking sort of a scenario where we want to build like a small website for a business. And we're storing their data inside Blogger, and then using these APIs, one for each resource, to grab that information back out and display it in a web client. Now, just briefly, for this demo, I'll be using Git. For those who aren't too familiar with it or haven't used it before, how this works is I'll be writing Java code, which then gets compiled into JavaScript, and then can be served up from a static HTML page with CSS or whatever you like applied to it. So the nice thing about this is you could easily say, once you've finished it, deploy it on App Engine within a day. And the overhead of actually serving up that HTML and JavaScript content is really, really low. And the way it will be structured in this case is for every resource, Brett's already walked you through what the model looks like for that resource. So that's all the content that's stored for each bit of information that you get back. What we then have is a presenter. So that's going to be talking to our API, making the asynchronous fetches of this model information for the data we want. And finally, the bit that we're really interested in is the views. So how this common model information can be presented inside a JavaScript client. Okay, so imagine this. You've got a business that's come to you, and they want a web presence. But say they've spent money on advertising, or maybe they want to lower their overheads, or even cut the costs of all the products they've got. So we want to base it on a way that's easy to update, but also low overhead of maintenance of the site. And for this instance, we're using Blogger to say the business that we're running could be one where you've got products overall. So each post that they make maps to a product and vice versa. And then for this example, say you've got a product that you have that is special for a week. So the most recent post is the most recent product, and that's on special for this week. And you want to grab that information and display it. But then it might also be useful for customers to, on their site, go back over the list of posts and examine what previous content you've got, what previous products you've been selling, and maybe even what users have said about their experience either buying with you or using your products. So let's see if this works. Sorry, my thing was down last time I checked it, so fingers crossed. This should eventually load as the blog where we're storing the data. And just in case, I'll try and load it from a different area. OK, and what we will see here is just a normal Blogger-looking blog. There we go.
Weird.
So as I said, imagine we've got a business which is running their products through their blog. And in this case, just for this example, we've got a business who are selling vases. What they do is for each product they create, one of their authors, or one of the people in the business, can go into the Blogger admin API, create that post, hit publish, and it'll appear on this blog. And as you can see, they've got a name, they've got a little description, but it's not really, it might not be stylized to what their product, what their company wants to look like. So it doesn't have their logo yet. We haven't customized the template any further than the original. OK, so what we want to do is now set up this client in Git to grab this content and render it how we like. So what I'll do is I'll switch over to the Git client, make sure it's running. And what I've started off with is a really basic page. It's just all the overhead that you need to, once the page loads, start executing the JavaScript that you're coding up in your client. So for now, we've got hello world. But later, we'll end up talking to the API and populating this data. Right. So the first resource that Brett was talking about was this blog resource. The model is exactly as was shown before. So you've got the ID, you've got the name in HTML. We support HTML descriptions as well. And you've got things like post count, which in this case could be used to say how many products you've got. You've got when it's updated, in case you want to, say, cache the results and not have to talk to the API all the time. And then to get this information, we go to that base https googleapis.com/blogger/v2 for this version of our API. And then at the end of that, we add /blogs and then the blog ID of the blog that we're using to host all of our data. So that's the URL we get this information from. Finally, the view that we're going to use in this case, we might just like a splash landing page. So you'll have the logo of your business added. You can also have the name stylized and the description stylized. So we'll use those as our initial page for the view. OK, switching back to the client itself. I'll open up the view in the Git code that I will be skipping over these mostly. It's sort of, the views are defined by this templating language, which looks like HTML, but gives you, and can be styled like HTML. It can have HTML elements inside it. But it also lets you point out certain elements in your HTML where information will go. So it's not the easiest to understand, but for here, we've got like the splash page. We've got a section of HTML for our name, section of HTML for our description, and an image for our logo. What might be slightly easier is switching to the Java, which compiles down to JavaScript, which then forms that view in our client. So what we do, when we've got a blog, we take that model, we find the information that we are interested in. In this case, it's the HTML of the name and the HTML of the description. And then we find the areas in the HTML that we want to add those labels to, and just set them outright. So what that will do is once we make the API call, the model resource will come back, and then we'll build the HTML on the client. Okay, so finally, to get this all running, I probably should remove the windowed alert, and instead replace that with, once the client loads, we add that overall view to the root of our HTML. So the whole page will be filled with this initial landing page. So I'll kick off a compile. And just to remember, all of this is run in JavaScript, apart from the initial serving of the HTML. So what will happen is we'll get a skeleton of a page loaded at first, and then the API fetch will go and talk to the Blogger APIs. It will do that through an inbuilt GWT library that does JSON P calls for you. And then once that result comes back, we'll fill out the parts of the HTML with the information that we want from our model. Okay, so we'll run this. Now when I hit refresh, you see the image loads, because that's part of the framework. You get the page at the top. And then once the information comes back, you get the name of the company. Here we've just added a bit of web font styling. And then the byline. So that's the information from a blog. But say you've got regular customers, they'll probably know your logo and your name already. And this content might not change very much. So what we really want to get in there is the product information for everything that you have. So instead of doing it based off blog information, we now switch to using our model as being the posts. As before, you've got the post model, which is the ID of the post, the name, so that's the HTML that the post is titled. You've got the HTML content of the post, direct from the Blogger backends. You've also got this nice thing, which is the author, which applies to anything which is authored inside the Blogger API. So it gives you the name, their profile picture if they have one, their link to their profile, and then the number of comments on the post. So we do it this way just because the comments themselves are different resources. So rather than serving them up with a large overhead on the post, we give you the number of comments, and it's possible to form the URL to fetch those later. But the URL for the posts is exactly as before. So because the post resource lives within a blog, the start of the post URL is the same. You've got the Google APIs, and then Blogger v2, then followed by /blog/blog ID for the blog that the posts live in. And then finally, we want to get one particular post of the product, which is special this week. So there we add /posts and then /post ID for the ID of that post. We make that call, get back the information from the APIs, and now we need a way to display this to the user. And just as before, we set up the HTML template with areas for where the name of the post goes. Same with here, we can add an area where the name of the author goes in case different authors might publish different types of product. And then finally, we have an area where the HTML of each post goes. So that will be information about the product, the pricing, how to buy it, all that information. As with before, we create a view to display our posts. And in this case, we render the post similar to how we render the blog. We find where on the HTML page the post name goes. We format the name to say, in this case, we can link it to the original blog post, and then we push that into the page. Same with the content of the post, and we just grab that straight from the model. And similarly, we now grab the author, and we get their name and put that where we want on the HTML. Finally, in our overall view, how we'll display this page is rather than having a splash landing with the one tab at the top, we'll add a second tab, which is this week's special product. And so now we've got a second tab for that. As before, I'll just kick off this compile. Sorry, I just have to, once we grab that information, push it into the view so that it updates once the fetch comes back. Okay, so once we run this, it will have the same initial load as before, so that HTML framework of the page, but with no information. It will then do the call to get the blog's name and the blog's description and put that into the splash landing page. And then simultaneously, we'll grab the most recent posts information and put that invisibly into the second tab on the page. So here we go. We'll serve our client locally. Go to this, refresh it. You get the same framework before, but you can see there's now, not too easily on this screen, but there is a second tab up the top left here with a special. So once you click on it, you get today's special, which is grabbed straight from the blog post HTML. We can style this however we like on the client. So if your authors had gone in and not applied any stylings, then their HTML that they published will get whatever styling is from its parent. So say our business had a particular font they liked, any post could be rendered in that font here. Similarly, you can add information around the outside of this post. So here we've added like a buy now button. So that would then contact, in this case, our Google Checkout account. The customer would then be able to send us a purchase request, and we could process that with however way we've got set up for our company. Okay. Now, a third type of resource that Brett was mentioning was these lists of posts. So in the new Google infrastructure for APIs, the lists work nicely in that they sort of just wrap the existing resources. So here, our list of posts is just a list of these post models that we've already know how to load. We already have defined a view for. So what we do for this section is the model is effectively the same. The API call, instead of to a single ID post, now we're doing it to the entire collection, which we can paginate however we like. And so we do /posts. And that gives us, quite literally, just a list of these post objects. And as we expand on this, we'll be able to add query parameters. So you could say, give me all posts that have a certain label. So maybe it's half price label or blue vase label or whatever labels you're adding to help you categorize your projects. You'll be able to grab that category out of your product information. And then the nice thing with the same model is that we can reuse the same view. In this case, we'll have the product and then sort of navigation, so you can sort of traverse through time to go to delve into past products. Now, the code for this is very similar to before. So we've reused the views. We've got one view for doing the list of posts, but really that's just comprised of this single post view and navigation, plus some events so you can click left or right to go back and forwards. How we display this on the main page is similar to how we did before. Rather than adding a tab to get the most recent deal, we can add a tab to get the list of previous deals. And then once that API call comes back, we take that list, push it into the HTML, and then it will get rendered whenever the fetch comes back. Okay, so the differences here is the initial landing page will look the same, but there will be a third tab, which you probably, again, won't be able to see under this black screen. But yeah, so that information, once we fetch it from the API, will then be displayed into our page and be able to be viewed one page at a time. Okay, let's see if that picked it up. Probably not yet. Okay. So looking at the new client, yep, you've got the same introduction page before. You've got the same single deal as before, but now we've added like a little stylized reflection here. You can navigate through previous deals. So these are ones that we've had. And as you can see from this page, that's exactly the content that's come from the blog. Now, one advantage that you get from this is that if your clients, so the people running the business, say they're visiting their own website, and they see maybe there's a spelling incorrection in one of the products, or maybe the price that it's been offered at, they want to adjust it slightly because, say, it's really popular. What they can do is go to our Blogger publishing UI. So long as they've been added as an author or an admin of the blog, they can then go and correct up the content themselves in either our HTML editing mode or in our WYSIWYG nicer editing experience. Plus, as we're pushing out new features to this new UI, so for instance, now we're making it look slightly nicer, act faster, we could be adding features to our editor, that entire publishing experience will be improved for your clients. So they can add links, they could add videos, even custom JavaScript inside each product. They could have an original template, which each product is based off, and so they could then pull in the image, pull in a short description, and then it would only take, say, a few minutes to get one of these product pages up and running. Okay, the final resource that we haven't covered yet that I'll be using in this demo is displaying feedback about each of your products. So the resource we're using here is the collection of comments, which, as before, is just a list of these comment model objects. So that includes like which products they are on, which blog they're on, which will be the same in this case, their HTML content, and the person who wrote it. So we do support anonymous commenting, so that might not always be there if the comment was made anonymously. But for most users, you'll get like their name, a profile picture if they have one, and things that let you display the comment in a nice way. Finally, to display it, we'll just add a section down the bottom of each post. So because the comment data isn't available at first, we'll sort of start this out collapsed if there are comments on the post. And then once it's expanded, we can asynchronously go off, do that call. Once that data comes back, we can fill out all the comments that have been made on that product. Okay, so translating this into the code. For each post, we want to enable this little comment section down the bottom. So that's what this bit of the template that I'm uncommenting there is. It's the section that will expand out once you click on it. Hooking that up to the post itself, firstly, we need to add a bit of event logic to handle making the API call once you expand it out. But once that's done, we'll get just a simple list of this comment model object back and push that into the HTML one after another. And for those who are curious, this is exactly what our comment model looks like. So because the way that GWT is written in Java, you sort of need accesses into this JavaScript that's returned, because you can't easily use it just as JavaScript. But in this case, we have small wrappers that go across each of the attributes. So for our content in the comment, we just have this getContent model method. The one other nice thing about this is, for those who saw the talk earlier today, part of the common APIs infrastructure that we are launching this API on is a discovery document, which tells you, for each resource you have, exactly what these properties will be. So you can think, for each of our model objects, so here I've got like blog, comment, post, all of that code can be automatically generated for you. You don't even have to worry about any of that. And it will give you typed access to all of the values that you're pulling back from the blog. Okay, so once we've got this comment data, we make no change to the overall view, because if you remember, this is only being added to each post. And so the initial load will look very similar. You'll get the blog information, the blog description. And because in the way that we've set it up here, any post that doesn't, or any product that doesn't have any comments won't have that section down the bottom. But for the ones that we do, you'll get this new expandable div. Okay, so switch back to our client. You get the same initial page. You get today's special. And as you can see, this now does have comments. We'll navigate to this area. And for whichever pages have comments, remember the comment data hasn't loaded yet. So even if it had 50 comments, that wouldn't have slowed down our initial page load. But once we click it, we'll go off, do the API call to googleapis.com/blogger/v2, and then /blog/blogid/post/postid, and now /comments. Grab that information, comment data back, and then use it to fill out this HTML. So we expand it, we get the comment, and there you go. There's the comment data. You can even add caching so that every time you load it, the comments are still there. And this is the same for any post. So now we go off, fetch that comment data. And we can navigate through. So there you have it. It's like a small GWT app that you can use to display for the use case of having a business which has like a list of products and one that's on special. But you can imagine taking this and applying it to whatever blog you are interested in. So you could, if you had tools for the views that you have, you could easily run, say, 3 different business blogs. Or in the case of the dynamic views, if you make it general enough, you can, in fact, apply that client view to whatever blog you're interested in. So if I change the blog ID that this is pointing at to, say, my own personal blog, I'd be able to read my blog in that format instead. Now, as Brett said, we haven't launched this API on the googleapis.com site yet. The interesting thing about today was opening a discussion to see what sort of information people would like on, attached to each resource. So we have blogs, we have posts and pages for the more static content, plus comments, but we're still solidifying down what information will be available. And similarly, for now, we're concentrating more on like a read-only API. So as you've seen, we're fetching information from Blogger, but we don't yet have exposed ways to put content back in. But that's more of a matter of we're hoping to solidify the model objects first, to really see what sort of visualizations people want, whether it be for a business or for an overall blog. And then once that's settled, we can see at ways to be able to publish that new content from whatever visualization you like. So you can imagine setting up your business publishing page where you've got maybe 4 forms, a form with, say, 4 fields like image, mini description, price, longer description. You hit a button, publish that information to the Blogger API. That will get added to the overall blog, which has the niceties that, say you have customers that use RSS readers or use our new email subscription to the blog feature, they will get that information as soon as it's posted. But then additionally, if you have one of these clients, you'll get that information as soon as it's there. And so say we had a new post, once you load today's special, that will grab the most recent post from the blog. So you don't have to worry about updating your overall business website. OK, that's it from this demo. I'll throw you back over to Brett to close out.
OK. Somewhere here. OK, so what did we show you today? First off, I talked you through why you should use Blogger. Then we looked at 3 ways of using Blogger, including our new upcoming API, which we'll be getting out there really soon now. And finally, we had a live coding exercise. If you've got some feedback or you're twittering about us, please use those hashtags so we can all follow along. And I'd really love it if you give me feedback at that URL. But it's now time for Q&A. So there's a couple of ways you can get hold of me. There's my email address, brettmorgan@google.com. Second part, I'm on Twitter, oh my God. And finally, there's a Google group that I run for people developing on top of Blogger. But we've got some microphones in the room, so questions, please.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. This new API, is this an additional API, or does it replace the old one? Because I've been using this whole kind of model for a couple of years now, I think. So what happens to the old? I think it's been a while since I believe it's Google Data.
The Google Data APIs?
And what else? It's Atom or RSS, pretty much, if I remember right. So I'm assuming that this will have every...
OK, so what's happening here is the Google Data APIs are the solid, everyone knows how to use them. We've got them well tuned, they're in the platform. This is effectively our experimental area where we're looking at Google Data is all XML. It's kind of heavy. It's kind of nasty to use from JavaScript in a web browser. What we're trying to do here with all these data models in JSON is allow people to experiment, play in the web browser or on the Android phone or so on and so forth, be able to deal with our APIs in a light way that's buzzword compliant, and talk with us and go, okay, I've got this wonderful new use case. How can you help me make it a reality? So that's the discussion we're looking to have here.
Okay, so it doesn't really replace that whole thing.
No.
You will still be able to use the, but as Brett was saying, this is like a very lightweight approach. So we do encourage people to use this new system, especially as it will gain any advantages that are written into the overall API's infrastructure. So like all the server-side libraries that are written for you, you'll be able to use them all with this new API.
Thank you.
So basically, to cover it back, the new API structure is a Google-wide thing. We've got new API libraries coming out, client libraries coming out, so on and so forth. So if you're developing something new, yeah.
2 questions.
Yes.
Where do you want the feedback for the API? Not for the presentation, but
Oh, for the API, you can either talk with me directly or take one of these 3 methods. Probably the bottom one's a really good one, because that way you can have a discussion with the other users who are also developing a top blogger.
And conceptually, so I've done client work before, and a lot of clients like to think of having a CMS to manage their content. Is that the kind of paradigm here? Is that what you're thinking?
Blogger is a CMS.
Right.
It's a very light one, but yes, it is a CMS.
So is there any way to structure the content in the CMS beyond what a blog post is? You know, you've got your title, your content, your comments.
At this point, no.
Right. Okay, thanks. Good presentation.
Thank you, Jono. Any other questions? Or are we all rushing to the bar? I think we're done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.